All right, so today we're going to take a look at the government shutdown, how it's about to end tomorrow. What does it mean for you? How others are reacting to it, like in the political sphere as far as the stock markets. But what's also missing about it, because there's something that's not really being widely reported on. So take a look at this article that I got pulled up here. Talks about how the shutdown leaves a mark on an already struggling economy, from lost paychecks to canceled flights. Well, let's see all that happened, because there was a lot of damage. This was the longest federal government shutdown, as it says right here. The longest federal government shutdown appears to be nearing its end, but not without leaving a mark. Look at these numbers here. About 1.25 million federal workers haven't been paid since October 1st. Goodness gracious, today is November 11th, so, we're on more than a month without no paycheck. Thousands of flights have been canceled. The trend is expected to continue this week, even as Congress is moving towards opening the government. So, basically what's happening is that these air traffic controllers who are government workers, they're being asked, hey, come to work, but don't get paid. And they've been coming to work for more than a month and not getting paid. Oh, hold on. We've got some visitors. Kiyomi is here. She hasn't been paid either. Government shutdowns affected her. You have anything to say? You want to go to the mic? Okay, all right. I'm not wasting any more time. So anyway, back to the article. So when you look at these numbers, most of the lost economic activity will be recovered when the government reopens, as federal workers will receive back pay. Well, let's hope that they receive back pay. There are rumors going around that some might not. And mind you, this shutdown was the longest in history. Just a couple more things I want to point out here. So there's been shutdowns in the past, but none as long as this. And half of the federal workers, 650,000, didn't even work during the shutdown. And this will likely boost the unemployment rate. Now, we've talked to the unemployment. We've talked about that rate. It's bad data that's coming in for a lot of it. And it's also a case where they're not counting, like these federal workers who've been out, they didn't start counting them immediately, because since the federal government was shut down, they weren't getting the data. And so everybody's working data blind. But this is the biggest point I want to point out from this article. Missed paychecks. Federal workers will have missed about 16 billion with a B in wages by mid-November. This is the key, because it's like, okay, well, I don't work for the federal government. How does this affect me? Because it affects the entire economy. That has meant less spending at stores, restaurants, and likely reduced holiday travel. Large purchases will probably be postponed, slowing the broader economy. So, hey, that's where you say, okay, well, you know what? It's good news that this is over. But this isn't completely over. But first, let's talk about the data piece, and then I'm going to get into what you can do as the average person, because there's some action that you are going to have to take. Have to take based on some of this news that we're getting. So let's look at the investors first. It says the U.S. shutdown brings investor relief, fresh data focus. We won't spend too much time on this. But basically what it's talking about, markets on Monday welcome the prospect of a federal reopening. Stocks are recouping losses from last week, following news late on Sunday that the U.S. Senate reached a compromise to open up the government. So it's relieving the stock market, because now they know, okay, we can start to get data and things like that. But let me tell you why it really relieves the stock market, okay? I'm going to go down to the end of the article here. Investors were also eager to clear a data fog that has been in place since the shutdown began, with the government not releasing critical reports that both investors and, key here, the Federal Reserve rely on for views into the health of the economy. Now, why are we mentioning the Federal Reserve? Well, we'll use this quote. With the resolution to the shutdown, hopefully the Fed should be able to see some of the data that they were missing on employment before their December meeting. Why, Richard? Why does this December meeting matter so much? Says it right here in the line above. Fed funds futures on Monday afternoon were pricing in a 63% chance the central bank eases by a 0.25 percentage point on December 10th. Now, this has something to do with you even as a regular person. Let me tell you why. They're saying that now, since the government shutdown will be ending tomorrow, the Federal Reserve will get the data that they need before the meeting on December 10th to cut interest rates. Now, that may sound good. What does cutting interest rates mean? That means that they are going to bring the interest rate down that companies need in order to borrow more money. See, what's happening right now is interest rates are still a little high because they're trying to put inflation down. And so if they cut interest rates, then that allows businesses to borrow more money, in theory, to hire more people and to get the economy going more so. But see, there's two catches to that. Remember what I mentioned earlier, inflation. Inflation has been, according to reports, staying down. Now, if you go visit your local grocery store, you might have something different to say about that. But inflation has been kind of going down, kind of staying around that 3% range. The target was 2%, but now they've given up hope on that. But it's not shot up like it did in 2021 and 2022. Well, if you cut rates, you're going to see inflation start to go up again, especially if they do a big cut. Right now, they're looking at a 0.25 point percentage. That means bringing it down by 0.25 basis points, which means, okay, we're not cutting rates too high. So maybe inflation won't shoot up that much. That's what that means in English, basic terms. But now, that's one thing where it has to do with you, because you're looking at inflation possibly going up, which means the value of your money goes down, which leads into, well, what should you do about that? You already know one thing, that prices could go up. Let me show you the other thing that they're not talking about with this government shutdown. Going back to Unusual Whales, who is a credible Twitter account. This was when they came to the deal to open the government back up. But look closely at this, and you can fact check it. Senators reach deal to end federal government shutdown. The agreement funds the government through January 30th. January 30th? Hold on now. Today's November 11th. You mean to tell me we're going to do this all over again on January 30th? Oh. Okay. Deal reverses firings of federal employees and ensures food stamps are funded through the fiscal year 2026. So food stamps going on for one more year. But hey, we're all going to be back at the negotiating table January 30th, which means the government is going to shut down again. There's a big chance of it shutting down again on January 30th. Now, couple things. Why? Now, let's start to recognize the game. Let's start to recognize what's going on. Let me tell you why this deal just happened to appear this week. Because you saw how we talked about flight cancellations earlier. Nobody wants to deal with flight cancellations while people are starting to travel for their holidays. So the politicians did not want to deal with the backlash that came from that. So this deal conveniently keeps the government open through Thanksgiving and through Christmas and through New Year's. And then January 30th, we all go back again. Okay, so what can the regular person do? I mentioned in every video, get out of credit card debt, build an emergency fund, simplify your life. But why is that so much more important now? Because going back to our first article, just to highlight this section again, missed paychecks, less spending at stores, restaurants, and likely reduced holiday travel. That means that if, and more likely when the government shuts down again, the whole economy is going to be affected again. So what do you do in this 2.5 month time period that you have before chaos breaks out again, possibly? You got to be a dog about your finances. I mean, a dog. Like, hey, I'm going to try and get out of debt as quickly as possible if I'm in debt. Eating out. Why? Buying stuff you don't need. Why? Going places you don't need to go. Traveling. Doom spending. Why? Do not do this. Be wise. You see the calamity coming in another couple of months. It's going to be right back here and possibly worse, because January 30th it shuts down. There's no Thanksgiving and Christmas and all these holidays coming soon. Those are at the end of the year. So who knows how long another government shutdown could be. So don't put yourself in a position to where you're affected heavily by it. You got to start to live below your means. Get out of credit card debt. Build an emergency fund, 6 to 12 months, and then simplify your life. A lot of the people who were hurt during this shutdown, a lot, not everybody, but a lot, were people who did not prepare financially for something like this to happen. And you can do this with a job that, I mean, you don't have to be making all the money in the world. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you save for times like these. So, hey, I'm gonna let you all go. Comment below, let me know what you think. Do you think that there could be another shutdown? Do you do you think you should prepare? How would you prepare? Comment below, let me know. Comment, like, subscribe. Hey, I enjoyed it. Y'all have a good one.